What is up, you guys? Shan's here, and I'm so excited to bring you another episode of the Completely Living podcast, where we talk Bible, faith, and go wherever the Holy Spirit leads us. And today we're going to be going through Genesis chapter 12. So last week we finished up the book of Job because we've been going through the Bible in chronological order. So we went from Genesis 11 through the entire book of Job, and now we're back into Genesis 12. And so we're picking this up after this story of Job, and just to remind you of what happened in Genesis 11. That was the Tower of Babel, where they were building this tower to exalt themselves, to worship their deities, and then they are all scattered. Their language is confused. And then we have the story of Job coming in right in the middle of that, and now we're back to 12. And here in chapter 12, we're going to be talking about Abram, who God later changes his name to Abraham. So Abram means exalted father. That's what the name means. But Abraham, it means father of a multitude. So we see that God is going to be changing his name because he is signifying that this person is going to be a father of a multitude. And if you are at all familiar with Abraham's story, you know that there are three big world religions which credit Abraham to being the father of their religion. And that is Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. So all three of those look to Abram as kind of a pillar of the faith and somebody who started off or kicked off their religion. But something that I do think is very interesting to note is that at this point in time, Abram himself is a Gentile. So God is using somebody who's a Gentile because there's no Hebrew people yet. So God is using somebody who is a Gentile to bring forth his master plan and the redemptive plan for the world. So we get right into it. The first heading here in Genesis 12 is the call of Abram, verse 1. And we're reading in the NLT version, so you can follow along. I'll put the words on the screen if you're able to watch the video, but otherwise you can follow along in whatever Bible that you have, whatever version you see fit. So verse 1, the Lord had said to Abram, leave your native country, your relatives, and your father's family, and go to the land that I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you and make you famous, and you will be a blessing to others. I will bless those who bless you and curse those who treat you with contempt. All the families of earth will be blessed through you. So it's interesting because God just tells Abram to leave his country and leave everything with no details. Like no map, no, this is how long it's going to take. This is what I want you to do. This is what's going to happen. This is just leave. Ain't it just like God to tell you to do something, but it will be a little not so forthcoming on the details. And that's okay, because that allows us to exercise our faith. You know, if we had all the details of what God wanted for our lives and for our plans all the time, we would never have to exercise faith. And that's kind of beside the point, right? So we're supposed to have faith. We're supposed to trust God. God's not giving Abram any details here. And interesting that God saying, I will bless you and make you famous. When we just talked about Genesis 11, the Tower of Babel, people get scattered and their language is confused because they're trying to make a name for themselves, among other things, trying to worship their deities, reach God, reach heaven, or their version of God. But it's interesting here, like God is basically saying, if you are trying to make a name for yourself for prideful reasons, no, we're not doing that. But I will make you great. I can bless you and make you great. And that is something that God is doing for Abram. Also here at the end of verse 3, all the families on the earth will be blessed through you. To me, that's a call to Jesus. That's saying Jesus is going to come through your line and all the families of the earth are going to be blessed through you, which is just wonderful. Verse 4, so Abram departed as the Lord had instructed, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. He took his wife, Sarai, his nephew, Lot, who we're going to hear about a little bit more a little later, and all his wealth, his livestock, and all the people he had taken into his household at Haran, and headed for the land of Canaan. So Canaan is an ancient name for Israel. So now he's trying to head towards Canaan, head towards this land, Israel, and he's taking everybody and everything he's got, and all these people are packing up and they're going. And Abram is a very rich person. He has a lot of men or women with him. And we know that because later on in Genesis 14, there's going to be a situation that comes where Abram is going to have all of the people, the fighting men, respond to a situation, and he has over 300 fighting men who are able to like go and respond to this thing, which tells us that's just the fighting men, like the men of fighting age. That's not counting women, children, older men, younger, whatever. All of these people are in his household, so he has a lot of people with him. He is a very wealthy man. Okay, so let's keep going. When they arrived in Canaan, Abram traveled through the land as far as Shechem. There he set up camp beside the oak of Moreh. At that time, the area was inhabited by Canaanites. So if we remember correctly, the Canaanites are the descendants of the people who were cursed because of the bad thing that happened in the tent with Noah and his son. So if you don't recall that story, make sure you go back and watch all the videos. But we have here Abram's traveling. He's going to Canaan, and it's inhabited by the Canaanites. This is where he is going. Then the Lord appeared to Abram and said, I will give this land to your descendants. And Abram built an altar there and dedicated it to the Lord who had appeared to him. So this is actually the second time that an altar is mentioned in the Bible. The first time was in Genesis 8, where Noah built an altar. And so now we have Abram building an altar, dedicating it to the Lord. And something that I find interesting is that Noah and his son Shem are actually still alive when Abram is born. So there's like a chance that Noah himself taught Abram about the principle of building an altar and what that means and dedicating it to the Lord. Like, isn't that so crazy? Like, Abram he can literally just talk to Noah about the flood. That's so crazy. It's so, wow. So I wonder if he learned about altars like directly from Noah, or if it's like a family thing, a family tradition that's passed down at this time. After that, Abram traveled south and set up camp in the hill country, with Bethel to the west and Ai to the east. Now, I think it's also interesting. He's setting up camps. This is the second time they're talking about camps. And I think at some point in here, they're going to talk about Abram setting up tents. And I think it's so interesting that he's setting up these temporary homes, these temporary stays. He's not going somewhere and trying to build this permanent, like his dream home or something. He's just like, I'm not attached to this land. I'm going wherever God tells me to go. And that is a good lesson for all of us. Like, we do not need to be attached to the things of this world or this land or whatever. We just go where God tells you. That's all you got to do. Just do what God tells you. That's it. All right, let's keep going. There, he built another altar. He's just building altars left and right, and dedicated it to the Lord, and he worshiped the Lord. Then Abram continued traveling south by stages towards the Negev. And then the next heading here is Abram and Sarai in Egypt. So, verse 10. At that time, a severe famine struck the land of Canaan, forcing Abram to go down to Egypt, where he lived as a foreigner. I wonder did God tell you to go down to Egypt? I wonder if this is a situation where God didn't necessarily tell Abram to go down to Egypt. Abram is just dealing with this famine. He's dealing with this bad thing. And he's like, I have got to do something. I have all these people in my household. I've got to do something. We got to go. We're going down to Egypt. And if God is like, I did not tell you to go down to Egypt. I did not tell you to do that. I just wonder if it's like something he did on his own. Is he supposed to be going to Egypt? Was that in the master plan that God had? Verse 11. As he was approaching the border of Egypt, Abram said to his wife Sarai, look, you're a very beautiful woman. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, this is his wife. Let's kill him. Then we can have her. So please tell them you're my sister, and then they will spare my life and treat me well because of their interest in you. So he wants to lie. As soon as he's rolling up to Egypt, he's like, you're going to have to lie and say that you're my sister. Because Abram understands that in this culture, in the Egyptian culture at the time, they respected marriage, the Egyptians, but they didn't necessarily respect life, which meant that if they see Sarah and they think she's beautiful sorry, her name Sarai. Her name's going to change to Sarah. Spoiler alert. But if they see Sarah and they think she's beautiful, but they know she's married, they're not going to, or Pharaoh's not going to take her into his harem of wives because he respects marriage. But he might be willing to have Abram eliminated from the equation so that he can then, she'll be a widow and he can take her. So Abram knows this and he's like, just tell him you're my sister. So Abram's down to lie so it's a half truth because Sarai is actually his half sister. So technically it is still his sister, but really is his wife. You know what I'm saying. This is, you get it. You know what I'm saying? It's a half truth, whole lie situation. Verse 14. And sure enough, when Abram arrived in Egypt, everyone noticed Sarai's beauty. When the palace officials saw her, they sang her praises to Pharaoh, their king, and Sarah was taken into his palace. Then Pharaoh gave Abram many gifts because of her: sheep, goats, cattle, male and female donkeys, male and female servants, and camels. I don't like this at all because I feel like this is basically saying like Sarah did not have a say. She did not have a say of whether or not she was going to go with this man, Pharaoh, because if she had a say, presumably she would have just said no. And they wouldn't have had to lie about who she was, or that she was a sister instead of a wife. So that signals to me that she didn't have an option of whether or not she was going to go and be a part of Pharaoh's harem. So she's basically going to be assaulted because she doesn't have a say. And Abram's going to get gifts and rich because of it, which is just terrible. Verse 17. But the Lord sent terrible plagues upon Pharaoh and his household because of Sarai, Abram's wife. So Pharaoh summoned Abram and accused him sharply. What have you done to me? He demanded. Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? Why did you say she was your sister and allow me to take her as my wife? Now then, here is your wife. Take her and get out of here. Pharaoh ordered some of his men to escort them, and he sent Abram out of the country along with his wife and all of his possessions. And that is the end of chapter 12. So we have Abram is ending on this lie. Somehow Pharaoh finds out that it's a lie. I do wonder how he found out. Like, did Sarah say, actually, here's the truth? Or how did he find out that this is actually, like, they got plagues? How did he know why the plagues came? I have questions about that. But, okay. He finds out and he's like, can y'all just please leave? Can you leave? Because I didn't sign up to be a part of that. And now they get to go. And I think it's interesting because we know here and we get to see here this piece of like, Abram is an imperfect man. Okay. He is a man who is willing to lie to save himself. First of all, he's going to Egypt, and we don't even know if he was supposed to go to Egypt. He's willing to lie to save himself and say, like, this is my sister, and then have his wife be taken without her own consent, which is terrible. And God still uses him. Like, God's like, I understand that this is a lying, dishonest man who is doing this stuff, but I'm going to still use him, and he's still going to be great. I'm still going to make his name great. I'm still going to bring the Messiah through his line. And that's just something just to remember and to understand that we are all imperfect people. We all make mistakes. We all sin. We all fall short of the glory of God constantly. And God is still able to take us and take our broken pieces and still use us for his greater plan, which is so beautiful. And I'm so thankful for that. Thank God that he uses broken people to do his will. It's just wonderful. So we will end there at the end of chapter 12, and we will pick it back up in chapter 13 next time. Make sure that you like this video, comment, subscribe to the podcast, do anything, share it. Anything to help out the channel is really appreciated. And I will see you next time.